the story of the last 24 hours, of course, is the NFL schedules. And even on a regular year, I could tell you on our programs through the years, the schedule's always gotten a lot of play. Because you know what? Everyone likes to look ahead and take that first look at the opening week games and think about the games that people are going to shoot at for months and know that's there at the top of the schedule and look for certain quirks in the schedule, and then it goes away. But it's always, even in regular times, it's always been a big day. The idea that it's not is not true. I could tell you many times. I used to always leak it early because I had a way of doing it. I had a way of getting the schedule early. So they used to drive the league crazy and the team's crazy because I used to get the schedule early from somebody, and they used to get angry. And I would pick my spots. I wouldn't put them all up, but I'd put most of them up, beforehand. But you know what? There's always been an interest. And with both of these teams, the way I look at it is this. When you have teams that are trying to climb the ladder, and right now I'd say the Jets are a little farther along than the Giants are, but when you try to climb the ladder, the most imperative thing in this league, without any question, is getting off to a fast start. It changes everything. When you can get off to a fast start in this league, all of a sudden, and by fast start I mean you have a winning record after 5 games, 6 games. You thought you were going to have a terrible team and you get off to a 500 start over 6 games. It changes things. And if you should get off to a 3-1 start, all of a sudden bad teams play better. They listen more. They pull together. They become cohesive. So there's so many things that happen. And conversely, teams that are in the middle, teams that could go either way, or teams that are looking to take that leap forward, they have to have a fast start. So we'll deal with the Jets first. If you look at the Jets schedule, there's nothing about it that is that special. There's a couple of peculiar things there, like playing the Dolphins back-to-back games with a bye sandwiched in between. So there's a chance that bye could go away if they don't start until October 15th. But right now, they're scheduled to play at Miami on the 15th of November and then home 2 weeks later, a bye. As a matter of fact, it's a bye for Miami, a bye for the Jets, and a bye for the Giants on the same week. The Giants and Jets actually have the same bye, which is kind of quirky. Then later in the season, the Jets will most likely, and they can be flexed the second to last weekend. They can be flexed both weekends, as a matter of fact. But they're going to play back-to-back games, Seattle and the Rams, so they'll probably stay out west. Not an easy chore late in the season, especially for the East Coast teams to go play out west and stay there for 2 weeks. Not an easy chore at all, especially against teams that are better than them. But the last 4 are really going to be hard for the Jets to make up any ground because they're at Seattle, at the Rams, home to Cleveland, which could go either way as a team, and then at New England to close the season. So that means you're closing with a very rugged defensive game on you and a very rugged division game. You're on the road 3 of your last 4 weeks, so you better take that into account. The Jets, when you break it in, and when you always do it, the first thing to do in these schedules is, what I do is I look at the first 3 weeks to see if the team in question can get off to a fast start. Number 2, draw a line after every 4th game and look at the season in those 4-game packets. First 4, second 4, third 4, fourth 4. The last 4 is very tough. At Seattle, at the Rams, Cleveland, at New England. Very tough. When you look at it, the Jets are going to have a good October. In October, they play Denver at home, Arizona at home, at the Chargers, and Buffalo at home. They open up November at Kansas City. They follow that up with a Monday nighter against New England. Now, New England might not be great this year, but New England's still going to be dangerous. So that October bracket, those 4 games in October, which will be the last game of the first 4 and then the next 3 after that, but the month of October games, October 1, 11, 18, and 25, are games where the Jets need to win games. If they have a bad October, they're in trouble. Now, can they get off fast? It's going to be very hard. They're going to open up against a better Buffalo team. They're playing San Francisco in week 2, which is going to be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the league. They go to play a tough Indianapolis team with Rivers at quarterback in week 3. So in the first 3 weeks, 2 on the road and San Francisco, the only home game, it's going to be very hard for the Jets to have a winning record after 3 weeks. Then they'll play a pivotal Denver game at home on October 1st, and that will start that run where they will need to be in very good shape when they get ready to go to Kansas City on November 1st. If they open 1 and 2, which would be very easy to do at Buffalo, San Francisco, and then at Indianapolis. So 1 and 2 would be okay. From there, they have got to do really well before they play Kansas City on November 1st. If not, they're going to have a terrible season. They play Denver on a Thursday night. They play New England on Monday night. They play, as we said, the back-to-back games against Miami. They close with a division game like everybody else does. They play New England last week of the season on the road, which would be January 3rd. You look and see what are the games you really don't expect to win. There's 4 games on this schedule that are going to be very, very hard. At Kansas City, San Francisco in your building, at the Rams, and at Seattle. Those will be very, very tough games. The other games are all games you can expect to play, realistic football in. But it's a schedule that is not overwhelming, but doesn't allow them to get off to a great start unless they do a very good job on the road in weeks 1 and 3, because beating San Francisco in weeks 2 in your building is going to be very, very hard. So with an improving team, I think October, they will have to have a big October if they're going to have a decent season. If they're going to have a winning season, they're going to have a very big October. The first 3 games, the first game of the season, as you know, is the champs hosting Houston. So you got a shootout game to open it up. 2 exciting quarterbacks. Shootout game as Houston plays at Kansas City on the Thursday night. Kansas City installed as an 11-point favorite in the game. The Monday night games are Pitt and Giants in the first Monday night game. The second Monday night game is Tennessee at Denver. Sunday night game is Dallas at the Rams, so no Giants-Dallas this year, thankfully, because the Giants are playing Monday night at home against the Steelers. You have Seattle at Atlanta. You have Philly at Washington. You have Miami opening in New England. Green Bay opening in Minnesota. Indy opening against Jacksonville with Rivers at quarterback, and Rivers announcing today that he will be the future head coach at St. Michael's in Alabama, St. Michael's High School. He'll be the future head football coach, high school football coach. So Rivers, who you know is a guy who his father was a coach. His father coached him in Athens, Alabama. Father, Steve Rivers, was a head coach. He played for him. Now he wants to coach. He also has 2 boys and 7 girls. So he wants to coach his sons. I think they're in maybe 3rd and 5th grade or something. I think 3rd and 5th grade, if I remember off the top of my head right now. But he has 2 boys and 7 girls. And he has now decided to become a high school coach to follow in the footsteps of his father. Chicago opens at Detroit, Cleveland at Baltimore, Jets at the Bills, Raiders at Carolina, Chargers at Bengals. Tampa Bay will open on the road as an underdog against Drew Brees and the Saints. Arizona at San Francisco, and then, of course, the Sunday nighters, Dallas and the Rams. Now, the Giants Again, when you have a team that's looking to get out of the gate fast, to be better than it hopes, to win more games than people expect, to get to close to be a winning season team this year, you want to get off on the first five. You want to get off to a fast start. You want to be okay after 5 games. But I look at it a little differently than the Giants. Let me put it this way: the Giants are in some trouble. And this is why the schedule is going to hurt the Giants. This schedule is not conducive to a fast start for the Giants, who are going to be putting the pieces together on the defense, putting some new pieces together with a new head coach. They open Monday night, national TV, against the Steelers at home. Roethlisberger's return. All right, is it a game they could win? Yes. Look at it now as a game they have to win. You know why? They have Chicago the next week on the road. And then they play San Francisco, which will play back-to-back weeks in New York. They'll play the Jets, and then they'll play the Giants, just like Buffalo did last year. And Buffalo won both those games. San Francisco will play week 2 and week 3 in New York. They will play San Francisco at the Rams at Dallas. Right now, it's unlikely that the Giants are going to beat San Francisco, the Rams, or Dallas in Dallas. That means if the Giants split the first 2 games, which you would take, Pittsburgh at home at Chicago, 1-1 would be okay. You still might be looking at 1-4. 1-4, and that will accentuate all the negatives that you don't want to think about with a team that's trying to put it together. You want to get out of the gate 3-2. You want to get out of the gate 4-1. You don't want to get out of the gate 1-4. This team, if they split the first 2, could get out of the gate 1-4 because they have 3 brutal games after Pitt and at Chicago. There's San Francisco, which is at worst the 3rd best team in the league, at the Rams, and at the Cowboys. This is a brutal start for the Giants. Absolutely brutal. They'll play the Eagles on a Thursday night. They'll play the Bucs on a Monday night. They open with the Steelers on a Monday night. So you'll see Tom Brady November 2nd. Okay? After that, except for the last 2 weeks of the season when they're at Baltimore and then home to the Cowboys, the schedule is not brutal once you get to week 5. But they could very easily get to week 5 at 1-4. Then you're looking at Washington, at Philly, Tampa, at Washington. Now, that block right there, Washington, at Philly, Tampa, at Washington, all right? You might be able to beat the Redskins. You got Philly and Cincy after that, then Cincinnati, Arizona, Cleveland before you finish with Baltimore and Dallas. The problem with the Giants is that 3-game stretch, games 3, 4, and 5. San Francisco, at the Rams, at the Cowboys, back-to-back-to-back. After what you figure could be perish the thought, an 0-2 start. But if it's a 1-1 start, you might still be looking at 1-4. And 1-4, the Giants will never recover. So that first 5 games, Pitt at Chicago, then San Francisco at the Rams, at Dallas, is not the way you want to start putting a team that you're hoping can get something together, to get off to a better start than predicted, to get really something they can build on. But the problem is that schedule is very, very difficult from that standpoint. And, I mean, there's some tough games on the schedule at the Rams, at the Cowboys, at the Eagles, at Seattle, at Baltimore, then San Francisco at home. Giants aren't equipped to win those games. They are not equipped to beat those teams. And if not 0-2, you could be looking at 1-4. And if you're looking at 1-4, this season's not going to be pretty. Starts are imperative for these teams. Absolutely imperative. And the Giants and the Jets will not be favored until week 4 against Denver at home. The Giants will not be favored until week 6 at home against Washington. Not good. Steelers will be a slight favorite. They're a 3-point favorite right now. I can give you the lines for week 1 if you're interested in such things. Kansas City's 11 over Houston, as you would think. Seattle's 1.5 over Atlanta. That could go either way. Philly 6.5 over Washington sounds right. Miami at New England. They made New England a 5.5-point favorite. Green Bay at Minnesota. They made Minnesota 3. Indy 7 over Jacksonville, which could be at the bottom of the league this year. Chicago 1 over Detroit. I would not be surprised if Detroit's favored in that game. Cleveland over Baltimore 10 favorite. Baltimore's 10-point favorite. That's right. Jets at Bills. Bills are 6.5-point favorite. At least could be higher. Raiders pick Carolina. I think Carolina probably be favored. Chargers -5 over the Bengals. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. New Orleans a 6.5-point favorite. Arizona at least a 7-point favorite, a 7-point underdog at San Francisco. And then Dallas a 2-point favorite over the Rams in L.A. You have the Raiders, obviously. You have the Rams and the new building. And then you have Pitts and Giants. Pitts a 3-point favorite against the Giants on Monday night. And then Tennessee at Denver. They have Denver favored. I'm not sure that'll be the case. Tennessee could be favored in that game. Or it could be a pick 'em. I'm not sure that would be the case at all.